In today's video, I want to share a dramatic sunglow effect you can create using Nik Color Efex Pro. I'll be using Nik Color Efex Pro 5 from the Nik Collection 5, but you can also create this effect with earlier versions of the software. This is a starting image which I shot using a Panasonic G9 Micro Four Thirds camera. Because I didn't use any filters when I took the shot, the brightest areas of the cloud are blown out, even though there's no clipping in the histogram. The reason there isn't any clipping in the histogram is because I've done my best to recover the highlights in the raw converter. Unfortunately, there's nothing I can do to fix this problem, so I think it's an ideal image to try the new sunglow effect with. I already have the image open in Nik Color Efex Pro, so let's get started. Before I apply the sunglow effect, I want to correct a slight pink colour cast in the image, which I can see mainly in the beach. I'll do this by adding a Pro Contrast filter and then moving the correct colour cast slider to the right. This fixes the beach, but it's making the yellow in the sky look a little bit green. To prevent this, I'm going to add a series of negative control points to the image. I'll place the first one on the bright area of the sky to the right of the frame. You can see the colour return when I add it. Now if you're using Color Efex Pro 5 as I am, you also have these additional luminance and chrominance sliders. You can use these to control the selection made by the control point. I'm going to turn on the mask view for the control point now by clicking this icon. Now I can see the area selected by the control point in white. I want it to select a wider range of tones than it is at the moment, so I'll move the luminance slider to the left. Whilst I have the mask view on, I'll also change the size of the control point. I'm happy with the mask now, so I'll click the mask view icon a second time to return to the image preview. Next, I want to hide the effect of the filter from the other yellow areas of the sky, so I'll add more negative control points. I'm just adding these to the yellow clouds to prevent the filter from affecting them. Now I'll add the first of the filters to produce the sunglow effect, which is the sunlight filter. You can immediately see the effect at the default settings, but it's applied to the entire image, which I don't want. Instead, I want to limit the effect to the bright areas to the right of the frame. To do this, I'm going to add a positive control point and use it to select the clouds near to the bright area of the sky. Because this is a positive control point, it limits the effect to only the areas it selects, and it hides it from the rest of the image. As before, I'll turn on the mask preview using the mask icon. Then I can reduce the luminance slider and resize the control point to refine the selection. Let's turn that off now to check the effect on the image. Having done that, I can refine the controls to increase the strength of the light effect. I'll increase the light temperature as well because I want to reduce the yellow a little. I can then increase the brightness to emphasize the glow. And finally, I'll set the contrast to refine how it affects the surrounding darker areas. If we compare the changes we've made with the starting image, you can see that it's creating a nice, bright, glowing effect. Let's now add the sunlight filter to the foreground where the sun's reflecting on the ripples of the sand. I'll start with the bottom right corner. I can then increase the luminance control to make the control point more sensitive to brightness. I just need to be careful that I position it accurately so that it's selecting the bright area of the sand. I'll then duplicate the control point and position it more towards the centre of the frame to pick up the other reflected light. Now for the second filter to create the sunglow effect. This time it's the classic soft focus filter. Initially this looks way too strong, but don't worry, it'll be much less noticeable shortly. I'll start by adding a positive control point to the sky. Let's turn on the mask preview so we can see the selection in white. This time I'm not going to use the luminance slider because I don't want the filter affecting the pier. Instead, I'll reduce the chrominance control so that it selects a wider range of colours. Now I can adjust the effect using the controls, starting by changing the method drop-down to use method 2. This isn't as bright as method 1, so we can see a small amount of cloud detail returning to the sky. Then I'll increase the strength slider to balance the detail with the brightness. I also want a small amount of soft focus effect applied to the rest of the image. When I added the positive control point, it set the opacity of the overall filter mask to 0% to hide it. It's then only where I add the control point that it makes the filter visible. But what I can do is increase the overall filter opacity using this slider. By increasing this to around 20%, the filter now affects the entire image, but at a reduced strength. I can now see that the sand is losing some of its contrast, so I'll go back to the Pro Contrast filter we started with. This has a global contrast slider, which I can use to increase the overall contrast of the image. Another filter that you can combine with this sun glow effect is the Glamour Glow filter. Again, you can use this with the control points just as we've already looked at. You might also want to finish the image off by adding a vignette effect using the Darken, Lighten, Center filter. Here's the starting image, and here's the finished effect. Now at the start of this video, I used the Pro Contrast filter, which I consider essential for photo editing. Watch this next video to find out why and see just what's possible using this filter. Thanks for watching today, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. I'll see you soon for another video.